The moment people decide to use you isn't when they disrespect you. It's when you give them permission without realizing it. Picture this: a late message, a casual request framed as urgency. You hesitate for half a second, feel the tightness in your chest, the heat rise behind your eyes, and still you say yes. You even smile. Not because you want to, but because you've trained yourself to avoid friction. That single moment rewires how they see you. Not as cruel, not as manipulative, just as available. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most exploitation isn't driven by malice. It's driven by pattern recognition. Humans probe for resistance the way water searches for cracks. If you can't handle that idea, click away now. Because once you see how this decision is made, you can never unsee it. And nothing about how people treat you will ever feel the same again afterward. Once you accept that exploitation is permission-based, the next question becomes uncomfortable. Why do people do it so easily, without guilt? Because the human mind is always testing for resistance. Not consciously, instinctively. Every interaction contains a silent probe. How much pressure can I apply before this person pushes back? Most people fail this test by being predictable. They respond quickly. They explain themselves emotionally. They remain available even when it costs them. To the brain watching, this doesn't register as kindness. It registers as low friction. Guilt disappears when resistance is absent. No one feels bad leaning on a door that swings open. They only hesitate when something pushes back. This is why strength is rarely exploited. Strength introduces uncertainty. It signals consequences. But stability without boundaries feels safe to drain. You're calm, reliable, unthreatening, and therefore usable. There's a critical distinction here. Being respected means others adjust their behavior around you. Being depended on means you adjust your behavior around them. One creates space, the other collapses it. The tragedy is that most people think they're building trust, when in reality they're training others how to treat them. Every unchallenged overreach becomes a precedent. Every emotional justification erodes authority. Once this clicks, you stop asking why people take advantage of you. You start noticing when you make it easy, and that awareness quietly prepares you for the next shift. This is the hidden mechanics beneath social hierarchies. Once you perceive it operating in real time, you stop reacting emotionally and start observing strategically. That observational distance is the doorway. On the other side is a framework that doesn't ask for respect, but quietly compels it without resistance or explanation. Power isn't created by asserting dominance. It's created by controlling signals. These 5 laws operate whether you believe in them or not. They decide if you're treated as a player or positioned as a piece. Law 1. Neediness is louder than words. You can speak confidently, dress well, even claim independence. None of it matters if your behavior leaks urgency. Needing approval, needing harmony, needing to be liked broadcasts weakness at a frequency people feel before they think. Calm people aren't chased. Needy people are managed. Law 2. Fast compliance signals low replacement cost. Speed feels polite, but psychologically it communicates disposability. When you respond instantly, adjust immediately, or prioritize others without pause, you teach them you're easy to substitute. High-status individuals move deliberately. They don't rush to prove usefulness. They allow time to exist between request and response, and that space creates value. Law 3. Emotional explanations destroy leverage. The moment you explain yourself to be understood, you surrender power. Explanations invite debate. They shift you from authority into negotiation. The more emotional your justification, the more permission you give others to override it. Calm refusal ends conversations. Emotional reasoning prolongs them. Law 4. Ambiguity protects status. Clarity invites extraction. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They overshare intentions, limits, and availability to appear honest. But transparency without leverage makes you predictable. Predictability makes you exploitable. Players reveal only what serves the moment. Pieces reveal everything and hope it's respected. Law 5. Withdrawal creates value more than confrontation. Confrontation satisfies the ego but escalates conflict. Withdrawal confuses expectations. When access is reduced without explanation, people reassess your value instinctively. Silence triggers recalibration. Absence forces reflection. This isn't avoidance. It's strategic non-participation. Notice the pattern. None of these laws require aggression. None rely on intimidation. They rely on control. Control of time. Control of emotion. Control of availability. Reactive people chase fairness. Sovereign people manage positioning. One begs to be understood. The other allows misunderstanding and keeps leverage. Here's the shift most never make. Respect isn't negotiated verbally. It's enforced behaviorally. Every time you delay instead of rush, withhold instead of explain, withdraw instead of argue, you move up the hierarchy without announcing it. This framework isn't about becoming cold or cruel. It's about becoming unreadable. When people can't predict you, they can't use you efficiently. When they can't extract easily, they start offering differently. Once you internalize these laws, you stop asking how to stop being used. You start noticing how often you volunteered yourself. And that awareness changes how you move before you ever open your mouth. Most people assume power comes from confrontation, from finally saying what they've been holding in for years. That outburst feels liberating, but it places you firmly in the reactive category. Reactivity signals emotional investment. Emotional investment signals leverage loss. Players don't explode. They reposition. Watch how high-status individuals behave under pressure. They don't justify. They don't overcorrect. They let silence do the heavy lifting. That pause destabilizes expectations because it breaks the script people rely on to manage you. When you respond slowly, you force others to fill the gap with interpretation. Humans hate uncertainty. In that discomfort, they either respect you more or disengage. Both outcomes protect you. Only one drains you. Understand this. Being depended on feels flattering until it becomes a cage. Being respected feels distant at first, but it compounds. Dependence invites demands. Respect invites negotiation. One treats you like infrastructure. The other treats you like agency. This is why calm beats intensity. Calm implies options. Intensity implies need. Options elevate. Need diminishes. Every law here is a signal adjustment, not a personality change. You don't become ruthless. You become selective. Once you apply these laws consistently, something subtle happens. Requests soften. Expectations shrink. Tone changes. People stop leaning and start asking. That shift is not accidental. It's engineered. And when you see it working, you realize the truth most never accept. Power isn't taken. It's allowed or denied. The next step is learning how to demonstrate this without words. That is where the real separation. Consider the workplace. It's late. A message drops asking for a quick favor due tomorrow. Old you feels the pressure instantly. Chest tightens. You reply fast. Explain you're busy, but will make it work. You stay up late. The task becomes expected. Next time, the request arrives earlier and heavier. High status you doesn't react. The message sits. Hours pass. When you respond, it's neutral and brief. No apology. No justification. Sometimes it's a yes. Sometimes it's silence. The uncertainty forces recalibration. You're no longer infrastructure. You're optional, and therefore respected. Now the relationship. Emotional labor piles up quietly. Old you listens endlessly, fixes problems, absorbs moods. You explain your needs carefully, hoping to be understood. Nothing changes. You're stable, available, dependable. You become a container. High status you notices imbalance and adjusts behavior, not words. You reduce availability. You stop filling every silence. You let discomfort exist. When you speak, it's calm and minimal. No speeches. The dynamic either corrects or collapses. Both outcomes restore power. Then the social circle. You're the reliable one. The planner. The helper. Old you confirms early, stays late, smooths chaos. People lean without asking. Your presence is assumed. High status you arrives later. Leaves earlier. Sometimes declines without explanation. You don't broadcast reasons. You don't overcompensate. Your absence is felt. Your presence gains weight. Notice what changed. Not personality. Not aggression. Timing changed. Silence replaced explanation. Non-reaction replaced emotional labor. Players don't argue for position. They behave in ways that make others adjust. Every scenario reveals the same truth. The old self reacts to pressure. The sovereign self creates it indirectly. One is managed. The other is accounted for. This isn't about winning interactions. It's about exiting roles that drain you. When you stop playing predictable parts, people must renegotiate how they engage with you. And that renegotiation doesn't begin with confrontation. It begins with restraint, withholding, precision. Once you see how small these shifts are, you realize how easily the balance flips. This is how leverage returns quietly, without drama, without speeches, without enemies. Because nothing alarms people more than someone who stops performing, stops explaining, and calmly removes themselves from roles that once defined them and refuses predictable access forever silently. The next step is understanding where to apply this, and where restraint becomes self-sabotage. Real-world power is contextual. What elevates you in one environment can quietly damage you in another, which is why calibration separates strategists from imitators. This approach works best inside status-driven systems. Professional environments, social hierarchies, and asymmetrical relationships all run on perception and leverage. Here, restraint signals value. Delayed responses imply options. Quiet withdrawal forces others to reassess cost and access. In these spaces, people expect positioning. They read behavior, not explanations. Calm distance is interpreted as authority. But this framework fails in environments where speed and clarity are non-negotiable. Transactional emergencies don't reward ambiguity. When a house is on fire, silence isn't power. Zero-sum authority structures, like rigid chains of command, also punish strategic withdrawal. In those systems, refusal without leverage becomes insubordination, not strength. The mistake most men make is confusing quiet power with ego dominance. Ego wants to prove. Ego withholds to feel superior. That always leaks. Strategic withdrawal isn't emotional. It's clean. It's proportionate. It's done without contempt. You're not trying to intimidate. You're trying to rebalance. The goal isn't to win interactions, but to remove incentives for exploitation. When withdrawal creates chaos, you've gone too far. When it creates respect or clarity, it's working. Ethical calibration matters because reckless power destroys reputation. High-status individuals are selective, not hostile. They apply pressure precisely, then release it. They understand timing. They understand context. This is observation, not morality. These dynamics operate whether you approve of them or not. The difference is awareness. Once you see where restraint multiplies value and where it backfires, you stop copying tactics and start thinking like an operator. That discernment is what keeps power sustainable, quiet, and effective. Over time, consistently applied. Identity doesn't change through affirmation. It changes through the questions you stop asking. The moment you shift from trying to prove value to assessing value, the entire hierarchy flips. You are no longer auditioning. You are observing. The useful asset mindset is reactive. It scans faces, tones, timing, looking for approval cues. It moves fast, explains often, and feels uneasy in silence. The sovereign operator moves differently. He pauses. He evaluates. He understands that urgency is rarely about importance and often about control. Detachment is not indifference. It's leverage. When you detach emotionally, you stop leaking signals that others can read and exploit. Calm becomes a status amplifier. Silence becomes a filter. People sense that access to you is conditional, not automatic. This is where power lines emerge naturally. I don't rush decisions. I'll get back to you. That doesn't work for me. Short, unemotional, unnegotiated. These statements don't demand respect. They assume it. The internal shift is subtle but absolute. You stop feeling responsible for other people's comfort. You stop managing reactions. You stop over-explaining. Instead, you assess alignment, cost, and timing before you engage. A sovereign operator doesn't chase outcomes. He positions himself, so outcomes chase him. Being useful makes you busy. Being selective makes you powerful. Once this identity installs, nervous system slows. Presence changes. People feel it before they understand it. That is where authority begins. Change doesn't lock in through insight. It locks in through constraint. For the next 5 days, you will interrupt the patterns that trained people to lean on you. Day 1. Slow everything down. No immediate replies. Let messages sit. Feel the nervous energy without acting on it. That discomfort is the addiction breaking. Day 2. Remove explanations. If you respond, keep it short and neutral. No stories. No emotional context. Just decisions. Day 3. Practice selective unavailability. Decline one request you would normally accept. Not aggressively, calmly, or simply don't engage. Day 4. Observe reactions. Notice who escalates, who withdraws, who renegotiates respectfully. This is data, not drama. Day 5. Integrate silence. Allow gaps. End conversations earlier. Leave before you're drained. Throughout the reset, no confrontation. No lectures. No boundary speeches. Your nervous system will want relief through justification. Don't give it. Breathe. Stay grounded. This challenge isn't about punishing others. It's about retraining yourself. When your body learns it can survive tension without appeasing, your behavior changes permanently. 5 days is enough to break predictability. That is the point. People don't respond to what you say first. They respond to how you move. Pace is the signal beneath language. When you slow your movements, your speech, your responses, you imply options. Fast behavior implies pressure. Pressure implies need. Eye contact works the same way. Held calmly, without intensity, it communicates self-possession. Broken too quickly, it signals submission. Held aggressively, it signals insecurity. The sovereign gaze is relaxed and unhurried. Response timing is where hierarchies quietly reorder. Immediate replies place you beneath the requester. Delayed, deliberate responses force others to wait, adjust, and reconsider importance. You don't announce boundaries. Time enforces them. The removal of verbal justification is critical. Explaining feels polite, but it invites negotiation. Calm refusal ends the exchange cleanly. Emotional defense keeps it alive. Silence is the most misunderstood signal. Silence isn't weakness. It's ambiguity. And ambiguity destabilizes scripts people use to manage you. When you stop filling space, others fill it with caution. This is why presence outweighs persuasion. You don't convince people to respect you. Here is the truth that quietly governs every hierarchy. People follow the rules you enforce unconsciously. Not the ones you announce. Not the ones you explain. The ones you live. The moment you stop being endlessly usable, something uncomfortable happens. Certain people fade. Requests slow. Access tightens. That loss can feel like rejection if you don't understand it. In reality, it's filtration. You didn't lose value. You removed discounts. This isn't a call to dominate or withdraw from the world. It's a contract with yourself. You agree to stop trading self-respect for approval. You agree to let silence do work words never could. You agree to tolerate tension without rushing to dissolve it. From this point forward, you don't chase fairness. You manage position. You don't prove worth. You assess alignment. Remember this line, because it defines the shift. I am not useful by default. I am selective by design.